Hey yo, welcome to Heel Heat. My name is George Coles, and as you can see by the name on the thumbnail, this is a thank you to Scott Hall, aka Razor Ramon. Now, the reason I'm doing this is twofold. Well, there's this news that came out yesterday that there were complications from his hip surgery, and Scott had 3 heart attacks and was on life support. Kevin Nash reported today that the family plans on taking him off of life support, and it doesn't look good for the bad guy. And then I seen today, as I was looking through YouTube, there's a couple people. Steve from Steven Larson and Wrestle Juice posted a video with the same name, the same thank you Scott Hall name for the thumbnail. And so did RGT85, who's a video game guy who sprinkles in wrestling stuff. He's obviously a wrestling fan, but mostly a video game reviewer. Really cool videos. Subscribe to both of them. Steven Larson, Wrestle Juice, RGT85. Really cool people. I enjoy their stuff. Steven Larson had one of the best wrestling communities for fans, whether live on their Twitch. It's a place where there's very little hatred, and that's hard to find in the wrestling communities. I digress. So they posted videos with the exact same thing, and they were talking about what Scott Hall meant to them. And I wanted to post this video myself as to what Scott Hall meant to me, and also what he meant to all of professional wrestling. And I'm going totally off the cuff. There's no script here. There's no bullet points. Usually, when I shoot my videos, there's a board just behind the camera. You may see me looking at it on my other videos every now and again that has bullet points for me to hit. I'm going this one unscripted at all, with nothing planned to talk about, but kind of talk about how I feel and what I think of. Wrestling to me, overall, is an escape. It's where I go. It's one of the places I lean to. Wrestling, music, comic books. It's where I lean to where I'm having trouble, or when I'm depressed, or when I just don't feel like interacting with the world. And early on, I became a wrestling fan really early in my life, when I was about 6 years old, 5 or 6 years old. And I've really never stopped watching since. I first seen Scott as when he was in the AWA as the cowboy version of Scott Hall. Him and Kurt Hennig won the AWA Tag Team Championships there, and we could get a AWA on ESPN at the time. It was airing I think it was every single day they aired on ESPN, so you would see them often. A couple years go by, and this was pre-internet, so I didn't really know where Scott Hall went to. All of a sudden, I see this guy called the Diamond Stud pop up on WCW, and if you've seen the Diamond Stud, it's kind of a proto version of Razor Ramon, not as much leaning onto the Scarface aspects of the Razor Ramon character, but he had a lot of the same mannerisms. Really, you could tell the guy was super talented. He just needed his break. Finally, he gets his break as Razor Ramon in what is known as the New Generation era. Him, Kevin Nash, Shawn Michaels, Bret Hart, Yokozuna were the guys that were going to take the ball from the Randy Savages, the Hulk Hogans, the Ted DiBiase's of the world that had led the previous era, and they were going to carry it into the new decade of the 90s. And through the mid-90s, he was one of the guys. He was always in the Intercontinental contention, always a world title contender. He won tag team titles. His match with the 1-2-3 Kid, at the time just known as the Kid, made the 1-2-3 Kid, aka Sean Waltman, X-Pac, a star. Still one of the most talked about moments in Monday Night Raw history. And this is where something really began to stick out. In an era where a lot of people were goofy, even Shawn Michaels was goofy. Bastion Boogers were there, the Friar Fergusons, the Mantars, the TL Hoppers. Not bad wrestlers, but in bad gimmicks. you have Razor Ramon there, and Razor Ramon's the coolest dude in the world. And he just, as he would say, oozes machismo. And he was so different and such a refreshing thing in an era where it was all about cartoons. You had, and I'm quoting, RGT said the same thing. The realest motherfucker on the television was Razor Ramon. And you could just feel it. There was something different about Scott Hall. He was cooler than everybody else. He was cooler than Shawn Michaels. He was cooler than even his friend Diesel, Kevin Nash. He was the guy. He was the straw that stirred the drink. Then he goes on, and he goes to WCW, makes the NWO, and totally changes wrestling. Without the NWO, we don't get the Attitude Era. We don't get the Bullet Club years later. We don't get the shoot-style interviews in wrestling. The is it real, is it fake moments. We don't get the countless invasion angles, which that may be a bad thing. But he really, it's the butterfly effect. If Razor Ramon doesn't leave the WWF at the time and go to WCW as Scott Hall, we may never have, wrestling may not have survived. The WWF was struggling. WCW was not anywhere near where they could be considered a success. It was very possible that pre-Attitude Era, pre the NWO, that we could have been on the last legs of the WWF. We could have been on the last legs of WCW. It may not have lasted long enough, and there may not have been a reason to turn to the Attitude Era. What if Steve Austin stayed as the ringmaster? I mean, it's one of those things. He's one of the most important cogs in the history of all of professional wrestling. He made the NWO. He made the NWO cool because Hulk Hogan was goofy. Hulk Hogan was dumb. And I'm not saying anything. Hulk Hogan, bona fide legend, one of the biggest stars in all of wrestling. But NWO Hollywood Hulk Hogan, as cool as it was to see him as a bad guy, he was dorky. He was the quintessential old school bad guy. Now you got Hall and Nash, who are just the cool dudes who you could see listening to the Fugees, listening to Master P, hanging out, quoting rap lyrics in the middle of the ring, doing his survey, basically showing us a different side, giving us some insider type terms, messing with the fourth wall, really breaking what wrestling is and what it could be, and changing it to a way that it's not been the same since. And some for good, some for bad. But without Scott Hall, wrestling would not be what it is today. And he's one of the hugest cogs in there. He is, without a doubt, no question, the best wrestler to never be a world champion that there is. And that's not even, there's no question. He should have been a world champion. He's awesome. Everything about him was awesome. I mean, he was just cool. And I loved it. I loved every part of it. I loved the Outsiders. I loved Razor Ramon. Even his stints where he was starting to have his problems, you wanted to root for the guy because he had that likability to him. I wanted, when he was having the troubles when he was in TNA, I really wanted to root for him. I wanted him to pull through. When he finally got with DDP and got better, and it was amazing. It was like all of us wrestling fans finally got a redemption. I mean, we've heard all the bad stories, the Eddie Guerreros, the Louis Spicoli's. I mean, there's countless wrestlers that their demons overcame them. Unfortunately for us, it wasn't Scott. Scott got to redeem himself. So I do appreciate that happened. That is awesome that he got to get there. And he got to be revered. And he's just, I mean, it's so heartbreaking because people don't understand. A lot of people don't get wrestling fans and their connections to wrestlers. I've seen people cry over Selena the singer when she died, over Kurt Cobain when he died, over Michael Jackson when he died. And I get it, because you got that connection. And us wrestling fans, if you're watching this, I know you're a wrestling fan. we we have that same connection with our guys, with our Scott Halls, with our whoever it may be. For me, like Mick Foley, Tommy Dreamer, Terry Funk, those guys, Scott Hall. You have this connection with them, and you feel like they've been in your life forever, and they're the people that you leaned on in your darkest times. I mean, just recently, in November, my stepfather passed. And this YouTube channel laid dormant for a year and a half. Once COVID hit, I was pretty much done. I was not going to do this again. My stepfather passed, and I was sitting around, and I said, well, I really used to enjoy doing YouTube videos. Maybe I should give it another go. And it kind of helped me pull myself through some dark times just by watching wrestling and talking about wrestling and interacting with you guys. Just this last Thursday, and I'm not going to say his name because I don't know if it's even been in the paper yet, but one of my good friends passed away unexpectedly just this past Thursday. And the thing that got me through was watching New Japan, was watching Rampage. It just having some escape where I can enjoy myself for a few hours and not think about it. And hopefully, at the time I'm recording this, there's been no verified reports that Scott Hall has passed away. Not from sources that I would approve of, but it's, according to what I read with Kevin Nash, it seemed obvious, so fingers crossed he pulls it out because, I'd love to see him continue on. But if not, I just really wanted to make this video to talk about what Scott Hall meant to me and meant to the world of professional wrestling. And usually I sign off and I ask you guys to do all the YouTube things like comment and share. I'm not going to do that here. I'm not going to do a call to action where I ask you to put something in the comments. If you want to leave a comment about what Scott Hall means to you, I'd love to see that. I'm going to leave this with a quote from Scott Hall's Hall of Fame speech. Bad times don't last, but bad guys do. Thank you for watching this. Thank you, Scott Hall. I love you. I'm not afraid to say it. Thank you for everything you gave me in my life and gave all the wrestling fans out there. My name is George Coles, and it's been another Heel Heat.